BackRooms Ethan VoidLand is a horror-ish 3D platformer, where you play as Ethan, a somewhat shady private investigator who clips into the backrooms, where you wander through VoidLand seeking answers and trying to find a way out and back home. The story takes place in the very early days of the backrooms when they were newly discovered by the government. And the backrooms entities themselves are recent arrivals, so we get to see them before they become what they're known for. Now, this is a mobile game, and that's very important, and not because of graphics. As a matter of fact, most modern devices will run this game at 4K maxed out. The real issue here is controls. I mean, there is a reason 3D platformers pretty much don't exist on mobile phones. It can be real tricky to develop controls for a 3D platformer on a phone, and I wanted this game to be played with only 2 fingers in a comfortable position, and still feel like a game and not just a playable movie. Now that might seem problematic at first, but hear me out. Go take a look at a game like Alice Madness Returns. The entirety of the platforming sections are only played with a jumping button, and we're not talking about some mediocre game. Alice Madness is a masterpiece, the least to say. Another great example would be Mario 3D World. Take the power-ups out of the equation, and the whole game can only be played with a jumping button. Now back to the main subject. For basic gameplay, you can run, jump, double jump, wall jump, and strike. And that's it. Of course, that's not enough. So I implemented from both games, Alice and Mario, and I added stuff like speeding platforms, pop shrooms, zoom rings, ghost glide, golden feathers, stuff like that. Golden feathers, for example, give you one extra jump in that jumping sequence. I've also added power-ups which can be found in these mystery boxes. There is a jetpack which gives you a little boost after the second jump. The ghost glide lets you turn into a ghost, making you invisible, and you can phase through obstacles, barriers, traps, enemies. The Crystal Rage makes you turn into Rage Mod, becoming invincible for a short amount of time, and anything that touches you dies immediately. And the Thunder Step gives you the stomping power, causing double damage and shockwaves, and it can also be used for bunny hopping. Making the game, I wanted it to feel good rather than just look good. So I watched a lot of devlogs and read the comments and tried to come up with a fun formula. I didn't want the game to feel like a big empty world or just being big for the sake of it. As a matter of fact, I did quite the opposite. If I felt that an area is empty, I either removed it or moved it to the side. I made sure to always distract the player and give him something to look at, something to do. Another thing I got from Alice is that the constant evolution of the environment. If you've ever played the game, you'd know that you'd still enjoy Alice Madness Returns even if it was just a walking simulator. It keeps you constantly guessing what's next, what's gonna change. And I try to implement the same thing in my game. If you want the player to stay motivated and stay hooked to your game, the game must be satisfying. And from what I gathered, the 2 most essential things are sound effects, sounds overall, and rewards. I implemented smooth, satisfying sound effects on everything that happens, and I made sure they don't feel annoying because of repetitiveness. The game is also full of collectibles. Coins, coin bags, buried chests, treasures, but without overwhelming the player. They simply all add up to different values of coins. And coins are very useful. They can be used to buy in-game skins. And no, there are no microtransactions in the game. If you want to buy a skin, you have to buy it with in-game currency that must be collected in-game. And those skins might have special abilities. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a platformer game without puzzles and secrets. And there are plenty of those, some of which are easy to find and some of which are well hidden. And I know lots of people do hate puzzles, and you don't worry about it. You don't need to solve the puzzles to finish the game. Puzzles are mostly side quests that lead to hidden paths or treasures. One thing I'd like to add about the vibe of the game, it is a horror game, but it's not a scary jump scares type of horror game. It's more of a relaxing horror game. I don't know about you, but I always find comfort in playing horror games, and that's the type of the game. It doesn't have any jump scares, and it's not essentially scary, though it can be sometimes. I also gave meaning to everything in the game. For example, coins and mystery boxes are not just gameplay elements, they're also a part of the story. Now the game is almost finished and bug-free, and the reason I waited so long to start posting about this is I didn't want to fall to the YouTube scope creep. Lots of developers will post devlogs very early on in the development stages, and they start focusing on making their games look good and look fun for their YouTube videos, rather than making the games actually feel good and feel fun. There are no cutscenes in the game. I've always hated them. So the story is told either through the environment, dialogues, and whenever I needed to use cutscenes, I simply made it so that you can just walk away from them without even needing to click the skip button. Now back to the game. Ethan's VoidLand is a linear game, with open areas every now and then for exploration. But even though it's linear, it does often provide multiple paths that you can take. So if you do get stuck in an area, you can just go back and take another path. Now all the paths lead to the same checkpoint eventually, but that still adds some replayability value. Unlike many platformer games, I chose a different approach for the checkpoints. When you do fall to the void, you don't lose any hearts, coins, or progress, and there are no loading screens. You're teleported immediately back to the checkpoint in order to preserve the playing continuity. And also, I feel like it's going to be frustrating on a mobile device if you're constantly losing your progress. I also wanted every single level and area inside a level to feel unique and different, either by the environment or by the overall vibe or some special mechanics that are unique to that level. Difficulty-wise, the game follows a regular difficulty scheme, with few random chaotic difficulty spikes every now and then. Now I do think that this keeps the players interested and focused. Now, even though the game takes place in the backrooms, I didn't want to make another generic backrooms walk-in sim. I wanted it to play and feel like both Alice and Mario, like a combination of both, and even Celeste. I took gameplay elements like the double jump-in and the power-ups straight from those two games. And the golden feather is straight from the Celeste diamond. But instead of giving you a dash, I chose to make it give you an extra jump on that jump-in sequence. I tried adding the dash at first, but it was a nightmare to control in 3D. Imagine actually trying to control that in 3D with mobile controls. Now, this game is not a very long one, and honestly, I'm fine with it. I want to make a good experience, not just a long one. And considering that I'm dropping the game for only $1, I think few hours are good enough. Now, as a final note, if you want me to add something to the game or remove something, or you have something to say about it, please do tell me in the comments. And if you like the game, make sure to follow me on YouTube and TikTok and drop a like.